Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And this might be quite possibly the biggest movie we've ever covered on the page up to this point. It is Spider-Man Brand New Day, the fourth film in the Tom Holland saga of Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As of this recording, it is probably simultaneously passing 1 billion worldwide after releasing 4 days prior. It had the biggest opening preview night ever, the biggest domestic opening weekend of all time. It's massive. We're here to talk about it. That's why we're going to have a massive review. There are 4 people on this review. I'm going to be one of those hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined this time by Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
Megan Krantz.
Hi.
And Mikey Peniston.
What's up?
So much to discuss, guys. So much with this movie. This is our first Spider-Man film in 5 years.
Yeah.
Since No Way Home, which was a massive internet sensation. The most leaked Marvel movie possibly of all time. But was a massive phenomenon, not only based on critically how a lot of people felt about it, but also commercially making an insane amount of money. But now we have the next version of this character that we're seeing, and it's a different version of Peter Parker than we've seen, in my opinion, with Tom. And there's a lot of different things that are handled in this movie. There was a lot of hesitation and worry from people because of how big the movie felt in previews and things like that. In a lot of my research and even prior to seeing the movie and then all the interviews I've seen post the movie, it seems like this movie had a lot of different versions. Like this movie went through transformations, pre-movie, production, post-production, reshoots, test screenings, a lot of things. But I feel like they settled on a really nice kind of end goal for where they ended up. So we're going to start with some non-spoiler broad thoughts from all of you guys. Yeah. And then we'll go into a larger spoiler discussion about everything. So if you guys haven't had a chance to see the movie and you're clicking on this first, you can stick around for a little while and we'll warn you before we go into spoilers. But Vinny, I know this is a character that means a lot to you. I know it's a character that means a lot to all of us here on the panel. But yeah. I think you had posted something on Instagram about how much the movie and the character interpretation meant to you. So can you talk a little bit about that and just some broad thoughts, non-spoiler?
Yeah, so I feel like with most people in our generation, most people that are comic book fans resonate a lot with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. This is a character who is very human in his struggles, and he's not... You know, the big thing that Stan Lee talks about is how it could be anyone under the mask. You know, Spider-Man reaches out to people of all different identities. And I really, really love Brand New Day. I think that I actually have listened to a lot of criticism, and I disagree with a majority of the criticism around this film. I really adored this film in almost every way. I think it made me emotional about 3 times. I was getting choked up. And I'm safe to say that this is my favorite Tom Holland film. Up until this point, Tom Holland was his film. I've always was a Tobey Glazer. Like Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. I think it is exceptional, not only as a film but as a Spider-Man piece of media. But this is around the board more consistent in quality. I think that No Way Home reaches higher highs, but it does have to rely on nostalgia and having to see previous Spider-Mans and having to be connected to those previous Spider-Mans to feel those high highs. However, this is a really fitting piece within the MCU, and whatever phase we're on now, I don't even know. But it's really fitting. It does comic book films right. It feels like you're reading a comic book with all these inclusions of all these characters. And around the board, I think the quality is so consistent from beginning to end. And it puts the struggle back in Spider-Man. And, you know, that ties my whole point here back to where I started, is that this makes Tom Spider-Man finally very relatable, and why people enjoy so much of the Garfield films and the Maguire films and the comic books, and it ties it back to the thematic roots of Spider-Man, I think, a lot more than the previous films have.
Very well said, Vinny. Megan, what about you?
I agree a lot with Vinny, what you just said. I had a very, very pleasant experience watching this movie. Like, the theater was filled. I saw it at AMC Empire in Times Square, and it was like, just like, the fan energy was great. Like, you can tell how many people were so excited for this movie, and it was just like, there was just a really great energy in the theater, and honestly just throughout the whole film. Like, I walked out just being like, that was like perfect. Like, it was just perfect. And I was like, I don't know if this is just like recency bias, but like, I'm really happy right now. It was just like a very grounded Spider-Man story, and I have loved watching Tom Holland's character as Spider-Man grow over the last almost a decade now. And like, I don't know, I just feel so proud of him, and I just feel so proud of the team that put it together. Like, you can just tell there was just so much heart and soul poured into it, and you could feel it from start to finish. So that was just something really, I don't know, like, important to me, especially since like the last 3 Tom Holland films have just felt very different. I mean, we do have a new director this time around, and you can absolutely feel how story driven this Spider-Man is compared to like the last couple of movies of his. So like, I was just really happy to see him just kind of, falling into the Spider-Man character, and now you can feel, how Spider-Man has grown up. Peter is 22, he's like kind of like been forced into adulthood. So there's just a very different, mentality right off the jump when you first start the movie. So you start sitting there like, okay, wait, like, I'm in for something new. Yeah. I'm in for something brand new. Pun fully intended.
There you go.
and it feels brand new. There's definitely a new energy with Tom Holland and with this movie and Spider-Man. And going forward, I'm extremely optimistic. So I'm really excited to talk about this. I really am looking forward to getting into the non-spoiler free part of this conversation, because I just feel like there's so many things that happen in this film that I'm really excited to talk about. But I'm so hyped.
Absolutely. Mikey?
So going into this film, I knew it was already going to be one of the better Spider-Man films just because of the quality of what we were seeing. I definitely think that it held up. I feel like this is the most, I agree. Even I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I think that even down to the argument between the 3, I do think that he's kind of solidified himself as Spider-Man, if I'm going to be honest. I think that there's nostalgia, like you said, Vinny, a little bit, riding on a lot of the other Spider-Man and their movies. But this film is making, like you said, it's so grounded in the story, and it's so grounded in this world. Not just that, but also it's the most beautiful I have ever seen New York in a Marvel movie, honestly. The way that they capture it, I feel like we haven't gotten anything like this since, honestly, what I think might be like the first Avengers movie. I don't know. I got to really think about that. But I don't know. It just felt like we were like fully just in Spider-Man's world, but like on the ground, nothing elaborate, especially from what we've seen of Tom Spider-Man. It's been so much showy. It's been like him in space, him doing all these elaborate things that like Spider-Man shouldn't be doing. Yeah. So it was very nice just to be able to like have like a nice story. I will say, I do come of an audience where I do have 1 or 2 gripes, not necessarily bad, but and I've sat with them for a little bit, just things that I do think that you could tell Marvel, I think, is trying to push an agenda of where they're going, and I'm wondering if they're shoehorning things into things. I think you could probably tell where I'm going with that. I'm gonna wait till we don't get into the spoiler aspect of that. Outside of that aspect, though, again, it's the most gorgeous Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. I think that we should probably just let Destin Daniel Cretton do this for now on with Spider-Man movies. He's on a roll with all of his Marvel projects. I think that, again, Tom has solidified himself, but the whole cast, I think, is really cool. It's really cool to see Punisher in this, and that team up between Peter and Frank. I know I had never really watched anything Punisher related prior to this, so this kind of being my introduction to the on-screen character of Frank was like, oh, this is I know it's not as gritty as he probably truly is, but this is nice. There were a lot of pluses, but again, a few cons, and so we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Piggybacking just quickly off a lot of the things you guys said, because I agree with pretty much everything. The thing you talked about, Vinny, how it separated Tom and finally made him feel like his own Spider-Man. I think it's the first film that makes him feel singular as the character. I think that No Way Home did no favors of putting him alongside the other Spider-Men, even though it was fun for the dynamic. to constantly build the comparisons of what the Spider-Man, who's the best Spider-Man, why I like this Spider-Man better than that Spider-Man. And I think that him coming on as a producer for this film in particular, for the first movie that he actually has produced in the MCU and with Sony and with Marvel, I think played a major role in why this movie works so well. Because I think that Tom's passion for the character and what he truly, how he sees himself and wants to see the character grow and mature is completely in this movie on every facet of it. Destin Daniel Cretton, I've loved this guy since the first movie he did. It's a movie called Short Term 12. I don't know if anyone in here has ever seen it, but it's a heartbreaking movie. It's a little small indie. It gave a lot of people their starts, Lakeith Stanfield, Brie Larson, people that we know of in the industry now that have been Oscar nominated and all these things. He worked with a really personal story with that, and there are themes in that movie that come across in this movie, even though he's not the writer of it. You can see that he's all over this. Shang-Chi, I loved. We loved Wonder Man. I don't know if anyone else in here saw it, but we really loved Wonder Man. And I just think that he understands this version of the character so well that I agree, like, it needs to be in Destin's hands for the remainder of the trilogy that they hope to do, one last trilogy with Tom. I think that has to happen, and I hope it does happen. And I just think that this movie does so much in terms of the emotion of who Peter is and the whole theme of Peter versus Spider-Man and being forgotten versus still being seen in such a public light. They handled that so well, and it was such a interesting balancing act that they had to go into when it came to this movie, and I thought they did a really great job with it. So having said all of that, there's a lot that we want to talk about that we've refrained, guys. We haven't said anything spoiler related. So if you have not had a chance to see this movie yet, as we said at the top, it's everybody's seeing this movie. Your parents are seeing it, your grandparents are seeing it, your uncles, your aunts. So go to the movie theater, go see this film, come back, listen to the rest of our discussion because we're going to dive into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. We're going to jump into spoiler talk now at this point. And I want to start from the dynamic of MJ and Peter. That's where I want to start because I think that the acting in this film from Tom Holland and Zendaya is the best across anything they've done in the MCU. You could argue Tom with some things maybe in the Avengers films with the relationship with Tony, but I do think that Tom plays so well in the interpersonal relationships. And there's so much to dive into when it comes to MJ and Peter and the way that they kind of handled all of that. The scene on the balcony, the twist that happens is one that we could start with if you guys want, in the dynamic of what a certain character plays into. But that's the first topic I'd like to lobby out there. So MJ and Peter, the relationship. Meaghan, how did you feel kind of about the way that was handled in this movie in general?
This is a loaded question. Well, for starters, I also really did enjoy actually the yearning on Peter's end of things. Like, it felt very real. I guess also the fact that, Tom Holland and Zendaya are married in real life. It was kind of interesting to be like, oh yeah, like he's gone method here or something, just kind of like think about it that way. It was really interesting to see. And I think her character this time around, I think like both her and Ned have grown up. I mean, they've all grown up over these last like 4 years without him. So it's really, I guess, interesting to see how they've become as who they've become as people without Peter being in their lives. So that's already kind of interesting to observe. But I think that her as MJ to me she's always just kind of felt a little bland, and I've never really been all that in love with her. Like, personally, my favorite romance has been Gwen and Peter from like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, that's my all-time favorite Spider-Man romance. Like, they never really hit it for me. So I was almost kind of looking forward to her not remembering him, and maybe this was going to be his chance to move on and introduce some new love interest into his movies. Because I was like, I'd be okay with that. But now she's back, and the most popular like theory right now that I keep seeing is that when she's sitting there at the end on the balcony and she's holding the broken Dahlia necklace and looking out to on the sunset, like where her and Peter had sat like in like the previous movies and everything, and the fact that Jean Grey had somehow gone into her mind and given all her memories back, which I'm curious what you guys think, because I don't necessarily know or think that that's what happened. I know that, she still is tied to that spot. Like, she remembers sitting there. She remembers this necklace is important to her, but doesn't remember why. But I don't know. Like, I at the end of the movie, I didn't know, like, if she remembered him or not. I honestly didn't. I still really don't know. I'm curious what you guys think, though.
Yeah, it's left very ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because, well, for one, when Jean, does her...
Freezes everybody. You're talking about, yeah.
Freezes everyone. You have that shot on Zendaya, and you see she's crying.
Yeah.
So that, and also, like, Jean being one of the most powerful telepaths in all of Marvel, there's a reason. And then, obviously, the ending with Ned, it's left ambiguous, because the delivery of that line is almost like... you can't really tell if he you're Peter. Like, he also heard MJ call Spider-Man Peter.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's like, you're the guy from the party, or, oh wait, you're Spider-Man, or, oh my God, my best friend Peter Parker. I remember now, because Jean, might have did some wobbity, right?
Wobbity. Why not?
Yeah. So, but honestly, I think. Would it be the easy way out? Yes. But what's really convincing me to that theory is specifically the shot of her crying. Why would she be crying? And then the Ned thing at the end kind of, as it plays more into that idea and that theory. Yeah.
I do want to add to that.
I wonder if this is where your gripes come in. If this is a convenience that you have settled on. Because I know, I see all sides of it. I totally get why people would feel that it is a convenient thing, but at the same time, I also look at it and I'm like, it's convenient, but it's also kind of smart. Mm-hmm. It kind of makes sense for how they would handle it, but
yeah,
it doesn't make sense. So
this is the gripe. Here we go.
Yeah.
This, funny enough, isn't one of my gripes, but most of my gripes rely on the fact that I don't think things made sense, and I think that people are going to try and argue that things made sense with theories. That they don't. My biggest gripe, and I'll start there, and this will probably definitely come back to, but now that we already brought her name up, I don't know if we need a Jean Grey in a Spider-Man movie. I've said it before. I'm just going to be real. I loved how she was portrayed in this film. Don't get me wrong. I think every motive was like honestly deserved. I think that Sadie Sink played the hell out of this character, and I would love to. I want to see more of her as Jean Grey. I think that she solidified herself as what is really cool, and I feel like we've never really gotten the Jean Grey backstory like this, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, maybe I'm just like a little thrown off, but I've never really seen Jean and Spider-Man interact, and so that's kind of where that gripe came in. So I'm just gonna kind of throw that in there just to immediately, so you guys understand my kind of standpoint with Jean in this film. I love her in this film, but also I'm like, was this the shoehorn to try to push us to the X-Men and to establish that, and was that just kind of a ploy? Again, I loved her in it, but part of me wasn't sure about that. So now jumping to the Zendaya thing and the MJ thing, and Jean's involvement in that, I don't think that was the case, and I kind of hope that theory isn't true, just because I know that in the comics, Peter and MJ, their relationship is so all over the place. And I know they end up marrying each other, but it takes a while to get there. And that's how he ends up having all those different love interests, but they're always somehow connected.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a cool way that they could play into this now that she knows. And I do think that, I won't lie, I do think that the tear falling down her face was very why did we do that? I think that there could be some meaning behind that. I'm trying not to see it that way. I think personally, just because I like this idea of MJ now knowing that there is some history, and her maybe having these broken up memories of it, but not fully being able to tell fully. And she kind of said it clear in that moment where she was like, listen, I don't remember it the same way as you, I don't have those memories, which was a heartbreaking scene. But I think that it's something that we're going to have to grow with in the movies. I'm not saying that they're not going to end up together. They will probably end up together. But I think that through that, she now has kind of established her own life. And it would be cool for her to be kind of going back and forth, with the idea of should I be with this guy Peter, or I do still kind of have a boyfriend. I was kissing this guy in the beginning of the film. So, like, I think like she's gonna be torn, and that kind of leaves Peter in a place where he's like, okay, do I now explore a little bit? And that's how we can get Black Cat. That's how we can get all these other characters. You know what I'm saying? And like still have him end up with MJ because you know that there's still that connection from the first trilogy. So I think it was smart to include Jean in all of this, but I don't think that theory should be true. I was just gonna start with that.
You don't think this theory should be true,
Yeah.
but you're not saying it is or it isn't true.
No, I don't think it's true.
Okay.
I don't think it's true.
I'll say this about Jean before we get into a larger Jean conversation. We can come back to MJ and
Yeah,
Peter.
yeah.
This was my biggest worry about the movie was, and we talked about this at length when we talked about X-Men rumors last week or a couple weeks ago on the channel. I don't love the idea of trying to build the backbone of an terribly important character that's going to be one of the heads of your next saga in another movie. I understand all of that. But I will say it didn't feel that way to me in this movie. And that's why I feel like it was executed in the right way. I didn't feel that at all. There's actually not even a mention of mutant in this film, which I think for a lot of casual audiences, I think that's a really good thing because people don't know who she is other than someone that is a telepath that has these abilities.
Yeah.
Now, majority of people are aware of who Jean Grey is if they pay attention to the internet and they're into this as the same way that we all are. But there are people that have no idea. Like Liz is a perfect example. Liz, who's on the channel, she's done a bunch of reviews on here. She just binged all these Spider-Man movies in anticipation of this film. She's never seen an X-Men movie. She might not even know who Jean Grey is. She might not even have any indication or clue who that character is in relation to the mutant saga, to the X-Men, and what that means. I think that Sadie Sink was great. I was a huge fan of Sadie Sink, not only from Stranger Things, but I said previously in The Whale, I thought she was great. I think she's going to be great as the character. And I think the way that they show her story kind of almost mirroring Peter with the loneliness and the isolation, that led to our big moment in the end that was so detached from the MJ and the Peter. Like, he goes through so many emotions in this movie, and I don't know if the same effect is there if you don't have Jean and the foil that Jean is in this movie. So I personally loved Jean's involvement. I understand the trepidation. I didn't feel like it was, personally, I didn't feel like it was overkill in the, we're setting up X-Men now. This is how we're going to do this, and we're going to shoehorn this in. Because I didn't really feel that way. I mean, we don't even get we don't get a mention of the X-Men. There's not even like sometimes in Marvel movies, they'll do the thing where like they'll underline like a score, and it'll sound like something like they could have they could have done like, and it could have been something for like X-Men 97, but they chose not to do that. And I think that was very smart. I'm curious if it was always like that. Like I said, from the cuts, I can't even imagine how many versions of this movie there were, because again, Tom Holland said in the original, and we'll get into the ending too, because I definitely want to talk about that. The original ending they had for this movie, they brought the test screenings and people hated it. And so the ending changed. And so that's a big part of what this movie eventually became. And I do think Jean played a big part in that as well. But Vinny has had a smirk on his face now for about 10 minutes.
I thought you were gonna say something really bad about my girl Jean.
I got nothing bad to say about you.
No. But
Don't antagonize me.
No, I'm not. What I was gonna say though is because I thought you were gonna say something where a lot of criticism I've been hearing about this film is about Jean, and I utterly disagree with almost all of it. One, a lot of people are saying, Jean origin story shouldn't be in a Spider-Man movie. I don't think people are looking at this film like through the correct lens. It's an MCU movie. Because if you say that, then inherently you disliked Spider-Man being in Civil War. You know what I mean? Spider-Man, the first time we saw this wasn't even in a Spider-Man movie. We saw Tom Holland like in multiple movies before Homecoming.
And Black Panther's introduction was in Captain America Civil War as well.
Yeah. So I'm judging this film through the lens of the MCU, that it is a part of a bigger franchise. And we've been doing this for a long time, where we're having characters being introduced and originized in other films that are not of their name. Now, I really love how they handled her. What's the phrasing? Dare I say, I think she's more interesting here than she is in most X-Men media, dare I say.
People might be pissing off.
No,
Gary says.
She's really interesting here. I think Sadie Sink is perfect casting. I think that it adds to the themes of this film so well. The theme, at least my biggest takeaway from this movie was that vulnerability, community, and having to embrace that vulnerability, that it's not always about having to, be super disciplined or controlled or or take your rage out. It's about opening up, and it feels of the same DNA that Thunderbolts had, but I enjoyed the ending of Thunderbolts. I did. And I honestly don't have any complaints with what they did here with Jean. I really, really, really loved her. And I think the reason I'm going on this passionate spur right now is just to combat that criticism that I've been hearing of like, oh, she shouldn't even been involved in this. And that was a worry of mine. We all talked about it.
Yeah.
But they did it really well. And I have no complaints about that. I really don't.
Well, they have to balance a lot of characters in this movie, too. And it's not like they haven't... The MCU hasn't had experiences doing that. And some films are better at it than others. And some directors, in particular, Russo's, are better at doing it than other directors are.
Yeah.
Now, I think Destin... Everybody plays their role in this movie. That's what I like the best about the way they handle the ensemble of the MCU superhero characters. Like, it's not like you get too... Like, it's not overbearing Hulk. It's not something where, like, Ragnarok is basically a two-hander. That's not really what this is. Every character plays a foil and has a degree of importance for different reasons. Not only for Spider-Man, but really for Peter. And what it means for Peter to have these relationships with these characters. But, Meaghan, you didn't have a chance to talk about Jean yet. So, I want to give you the space to do that. And what did you think about Sadie Sink's performance, Jean Grey being in it? We haven't had a conversation with you. What's your exposure to the X-Men in comparison? So go off, Queen.
My exposure to X-Men is very minimal. Like I think I saw
the exact opposite of this panel.
Yeah.
We're all very passionate about the X-Men.
Right. So I think that my perspective is it's interesting here because I don't know, I think I saw the X-Men movies like when I was a kid. Like I remember Mystique, and I remember being like freaked out by Mystique. Like I just have like these like little memory burns of seeing it, but I never was really that attached to it. Like my love for Marvel is honestly really rooted in the MCU. Like that's where I have like, I didn't really read comics. Like my brothers were a lot more into it when they were younger, and I was just kind of like on the back end of that. Like I would go see the movies, when they would want to go. And, once I saw Civil War and then Spider-Man was, there, I was like, oh, like suddenly, my interest has peaked here. And then from that point forward, like I was like constantly watching all the movies. That being said, I've heard, a lot of criticism similar, like Vinny, you were just going off about like all the criticism with Jean and everything, but people would say like Jean Grey's not a Spider-Man villain, like what is she doing in this movie? But then like to your point of like, well, this is the MCU, like I mean, haven't we been like building multiverses in like every single movie? Like isn't this kind of what this is about? And also it's kind of like the same sort of ideas, like I mean all these superheroes are coming together. Like the MCU is its own franchise. It's building its own stories. Like it kind of has, I feel like in a way, a little bit of that permission to be able to just sort of like try things out, kind of like in this situation. But I mean her character I think was really cool, just like the way that she could mind control and jump from all these different people. Like I thought that was like, those scenes were awesome when she would just like jump from person to person, and then like it was thrilling. Like it was just
physicality comes across really well.
Yes,
the way they're able to really demonstrate that in a visual medium, I felt like was really smart in the way they handled it. So I agree, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that they played off really well together too, because even Peter's new technology and the way that he's kind of adapted with that, like he always like his suit can kind of can talk to him with all like the Stark tech in there and everything, and like he has his little companion Evie who's like able to like tell him like the radius or like the measurements where how far like she can like jump from person to person with her with her telepathy or whatever, and like he's smart and he has the equipment to kind of like sort of, like combat her. And it's just really cool how like they were able to just sort of like intertwine both of their abilities in this way where you would never think that you would see them in a movie together. Like it was just cool. And they're also both, like kids, like they're young people who are alone because they've been like, I don't know, blessed is really the right word, but they've been given this, ability where they're not like anybody else and they feel so isolated. So I think that bouncing off of like that dynamic with them was really, that's what kind of gave the movie so much heart. And I know that I teared up in the theater during that when like Jean jumps into Peter's memory of Aunt May. And that was like, I was like, she understood him, and then they ended up understanding each other, and their dynamic just like totally switched up. But before that, she was like hella sinister.
Yeah,
like, it was crazy, But yeah, I liked her.
I like that they give like Marvel villains. She's a villain, I guess, for majority of the movie. But when directors are able to give the villains depth, that's when it works so much better for every MCU movie. Like the visual of Galactus in Fantastic Four is very cool, but Galactus doesn't have much to the depth of the character in the film. When you think about, like, Sinister's a great word to put it, Megan. Like, she's killing people. Jean is taking over people's bodies and standing in the middle of the street and having them get hit by cars going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't care, because she's out for revenge, because she doesn't care about the sinister nature of taking over and inhabiting MJ at a time where Peter is at his most vulnerable and taking advantage of that, even if it means killing her. Like, he was choking MJ over a building and he lost control for a second. Like, MJ easily could have died in the bad version of what happens there. So I think having and seeing her be villainous in a way that's not the Dark Phoenix stuff, because that's all we see in X-Men. I know you don't know what this is, but like it's just the most overdone in film, the way that the Phoenix storyline has been covered. And that's why I liked seeing young Jean, and even like pre-Scott and Wolverine relationship. Like I thought it was really good the way that they handled it, but I want to give you more opportunity too to also talk about Jean Grey a little bit more.
So I will say that despite having this gripe, this was a gripe that I had walking out the theater. This is one of those gripes that I think after sitting with for a little bit longer, I can say that I can see a lot of the justifications, especially even a lot of what you guys are saying. Like I do get that. I think the biggest one was like maybe like you kind of really hit it with the like this is like they're building a world where it's like this is just normal essentially. And I think what kind of also opened my eye to that was when he just casually was video calling Yelena, and it was just like, oh, okay, like they are just all in this world interacting with one another. So I guess that isn't different. Again, I think I just came from the place where I was like, I've been thrown this Dark Phoenix storyline, which is like this bad version of her essentially. And I will say that it is very useful how they used her in a way where they definitely, again, I was upset because I felt like they were trying to rush setting things up for the X-Men, but I think it also, now that I hear especially this conversation, I think it does make sense. I do think that you always kind of need one character for like the fans to be like, oh, I remember that character from such and such, or that movie. So I think that makes sense. I guess I never really viewed Jean as being like maybe one of the forefront leads of the X-Men, but at least Marvel's adaptation of the X-Men. But I guess I could kind of see that, and they did kind of set it up in a way where they can still work the Dark Phoenix storyline into this. I don't know if I want them to, but they can in a future place do that, just because we've established her now as almost being a villainous type of character. And that, like you said, there is, Megan, like a sinister type of way to her, or at least deep down in there, and it can be brought out. So I will say that after sitting with it for a little bit, I do think that it makes sense. And I think that maybe I'm just like new to it. Maybe I just don't know Jean, and I can admit that. Maybe I just don't really know Jean, but I do think that maybe you really hit it on the nail when you said like Civil War, like that wasn't, like we saw these characters and that was like anything. And I guess in a way you can kind of look at this as being a Civil War film because it has so many cameos from other people. And so I get it. I think it was jarring at first, and I think coming off of our conversation too, knowing like, oh, is this gonna be that? Are they gonna do that? But no, I see it. I can see it working.
Yeah. Let's go back to Peter in general and the way that Spider-Man is handled across this movie.
Yeah.
You started at the beginning, Vinny, about sort of the way that you feel like this is Tom's. I don't want to say it's like fed to Tom on a pedestal, but Tom has a lot more room to work in this movie. Like there's a lot more things that he could explore for the character, not only as, again, Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and a big theme in this movie is how he really separates his life. Coming off of what happens in No Way Home, where, again, everybody forgets about who Peter Parker is, but remember Spider-Man. That is a big part of what he's dealing with while he's also mutating because of his abilities. So I'm curious on the way that they handle the character in this movie comparatively to the other movies. What was it that stuck out to you that made this a better version of the character and the best version for the MCU?
Yeah, so I will preface that I don't think it's perfect, and that is the reason why like it's not like a 10 out of 10 movie for me.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a lot better. I mean, again, we're seeing Spider-Man struggle again. We're seeing him, you know, people are always like, oh, the best Peter Parker is the struggling Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But he's like, he basically is on the verge of like wanting to just commit suicide the whole time, right? And yeah, like I like that you use the word yearning, which I like seeing that. I like seeing that he's alone. I like seeing that he has to improvise and not just be. The internet has deemed him Iron Boy, you know, Iron Man Jr., Iron Boy Jr., right? He has to go beyond that. And the reason I defend the inhibitor whole subplot, because a lot of people, I saw criticism that the inhibitor was too quick, too fast, right? He figured it out. He already had the technology, da 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 da. I get that, but again, this is the same character that we've been following all throughout these years, and for so long he has just been Iron Man Jr., right? He had all the he had the iron spider suit and yada yada yada, right? He had Iron Man in his pocket the whole time. And Tony Stark's greatest flaw was that despite the hole in his art, literally and metaphorically, he tries to patch it up with technology. He can never fix he can never fill the void that's inside of him. He's a narcissist, all that. And in the end, when he rejects the inhibitor, I saw that as, and he rejects the inhibitor and embraces both DNA.
Yeah.
I saw that as basically moving on from, oh, I'm not Iron Boy, I'm not Iron Man Jr.
Yeah.
I am my own Peter Parker now. And again, also, it goes back to why Peter Parker and his stories are relatable. It's human. It's genuine. The main theme of the film, not only having to balance identity, but having to balance vulnerability and community, finding people, finding peace. And that leads to fixing his metaphorical and literal peril that he is facing in the film. I have minor gripes, though. You brought up the AI, and he has his AI assistant.
Yeah.
And last we saw him at the end of No Way Home, he had nothing but a sewing machine. And now he kind of has, he's struggling, but, he's not really in the gutter.
Yeah.
Right? He has all this technology again out of nowhere, which, I mean, it's in the modern day. I get it. He's also very smart. It's accessible. But a little bit felt a little. I do wish we saw a little bit more of ingenuity. Is that the word? Right? I'm not a fan of the Garfield movies. I love, though, how much smarts that Garfield Spider-Man uses.
Yeah.
He is so, he's like, okay, I gotta investigate. Da, 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 da. He has all the, even, the way he's fighting of, when he makes that spider web, I believe it was in Amazing Spider-Man 1, and, he's waiting to feel the vibrations in the spider web.
Oh, yeah.
I wish that it was a little bit more of that. I do. But again, going back to my defense of the inhibitor plot, destroying the inhibitor is moving on from that.
Yeah.
So I will say mass surveillance, though, that was a little out of character. I'm like, yeah, I got cameras all over the city running face detection. That was a little like, all right, Peter would never do that.
Yeah.
Peter would never do that. Because that's his breaking violation of like everyone's privacy.
It's the conveniences. It's the fact that they skip over things that on the surface don't seem that big. And for people that really can suspend disbelief, it's not going to matter at all.
Yeah.
But I agree, and I know you agree, because this is something we talked about off camera, that that is one of my small gripes with the movie as well, is that coming from where we end with No Way Home versus where we start in this movie, it just feels like there's a chapter missing. Doesn't need to be a whole book, but we're missing something in the in-between of how did he accumulate all of this technology? Where did everyone's been saying, how is he making money to even like handle these things? But then it's like, well, he's got a relationship with Happy Hogan. Like you can manifest those kinds of things. But I do agree that it's like, it feels like it's a big jump coming off of, like you said, all he had was a sewing machine at the end of one movie. And it does pick up relatively right where the last movie left off. So that was one of my gripes with it as well, was the conveniences of where we saw Peter by the end of last movie compared to this.
Yeah, I actually have a question. Canonically, are we 4 years past?
Yeah.
When we get, not at the start of this movie, when we, through the montage of the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we see him literally see them go through 4 years of college.
Yeah.
Because what that first TikTok he sees is Ned saying, we just moved into MIT. So it's like right around the time where they're starting college. And then it's like, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes of screen time, maybe even less than that, where he's like, I can't believe we're graduating. And that's where the party happens.
Yeah.
And the party's within probably the first, 35 minutes of the movie, I would say. But I know you wanted to touch upon that a little bit too, Mikey, with the conveniences or...
I don't know if you get too much into it. It was just definitely something I was like, what are we doing here? I think that they kind of built it. The montage helped the means a little bit because again it showed kind of what was going on through that time, and I guess we got that one scene where he was the guy who had the added space was like, oh, it's just an added space, like we keep stuff in there. So like I guess you could make the argument that he like got that place for free because it was just like a closet space. But then like again like just like everything else that was in, like he had like a full, at one point I was like, yo, this is an Iron Man setup. Like this is like when he was doing the thing in Far From Home, when he was like utilizing Tony's tech and the spacecraft when Happy got him. I was like, this is kind of like that. Like this is like, and I guess there are ways that you can kind of, or they could have justified it or made that argument. I know that he's doing a lot of work with the police in this one, so like maybe like they're helping a boy out, you know, like maybe you never know. Like I guess there are ways. We just kind of like forgot about the Daily Bugle in this. Like that was something that was like kind of being thrown around for like the prior films, but like I don't know. But I definitely, it was something that I was very confused with. There was another piece to it that I was gonna say. How does he have money? That's all I got.
Yeah.
It cuts corners at points.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Did you have something on it, Megan?
Yeah. Honestly, this is probably like a micro gripe now that we've talked about it and I've kind of realized this, but like I think that we kind of forgot that Spider-Man technically is a vigilante. Like, and his relationship with the police in this movie is just a little random. But I suppose, like, in those first 10 minutes, like, yeah, like, that is our missing chapter. We can really assume that, like, you know, anything could have really happened in those, you know, those 4 years. Like, he becomes well established as, like, you know, Spider-Man in the city or whatever. And he has this huge fan base. Like, you know, there's respect for him. So I guess, like, that's kind of really all they really do to, I guess, give us any little bit of like background or context as to like why he's here now. But I mean, this is MCU Spider-Man. Like Tony Stark was a huge influence on him. So I almost think that, you know, he just kind of took some of those like influences or that knowledge or that like, you know, maybe some of that mentorship perhaps. Maybe some of that mentorship just to like get him to where he is right now. That's honestly, that might be a little bit of a reach, but that's just my like thinking of it. Maybe that's how you could justify it. Is
No,
that
I
that's
think
why,
fair. I
right?
think that's totally fair. Like you said, I mean, it's going to be a different version of Spider-Man from the comics. I mean, we talked about this last week too. Marvel does not adapt direct comics. They take inspiration from storylines, but they do not adapt the comic books directly. It's a different version of the character. So I think, again, it's a justification. But then, again, it just comes to the logistical part of it that sometimes you can overlook, sometimes you can't. But in the juxtaposition to the tech part, what this movie does that the other films in this franchise with Tom don't do is make it street level. Because there's a lot of street level at the same time in this movie, I think. Introducing Punisher, the character, I'm forgetting her name, Liza Colon-Zayas from The Bear, the character she plays in the relationship they have, the Wolf, and she's in the comic books as well, and it's a character that a lot of people that are like comic heads were very excited to see her relationship because it's an essential one in the comics with Spider-Man. But for you, Mikey, like you said that you didn't know Punisher coming into this, and they do have a very special relationship in the comic books. It's one that I feel like was probably put on screen very well. But for you, the ground level stuff that we were promised at the end of the last movie and what we get in this film, do you feel like it translates in a way that you were appreciative to see something like that? Because all our other Spider-Man media as of the last 10 years is multiversal, it's science fiction-y. So what did you think about handling the groundedness part of it? I mean, even my girlfriend who I saw this movie with, who watches all the MCU stuff, but had never seen a previous Spider-Man movie, she said that she really liked how this movie took place in New York. So she even felt that as somebody who hasn't seen some of the other Spider-Man things. So for you, the groundedness, how did you feel like they handled it in this film?
I really like the groundedness. I think that was what really sold me. I think that all of us are kind of sick of the multiverse a little bit. You know, they've just been like throwing it in our face. And obviously we know that Doomsday is coming up, and that's just going to be like the grand culmination of all of this multiverse stuff. So it was nice to kind of like, before we kind of even touch that stuff, to kind of just have a story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the MCU, where we could just be on the ground and enjoy it and enjoy all these characters. I think, again, and I did want to bring this point up too, just to the whole like finance thing, or how he could be getting a lot of this tech stuff. Like Darian, how you brought up how he still has a relationship with Happy. I guess the film again made it clear that he does have a relationship still with the Avengers in general. So I guess like from a Spider-Man standpoint, he could also be like, hey, can I like asking for favors from a few of these people, like, hey, do you have some tech that I could use? And then like obviously we're just seeing the side of Peter Parker then utilizing what Spider-Man's getting. I only say that because I remember that as Spider-Man, he got the key to the city, and then you see the scene of him in the apartment just like as Peter holding the key to the city. So I was like, oh, it's cool. He's receiving things. You can see the dynamic of that. But I just wanted to bring that up, that, oh, maybe they're helping him. Maybe like Elena was like clearly like almost like a big sister sort of role, and like you're depressed. Like, are you okay? Like maybe they are kind of like helping him to a degree. But as far as the grounded level, I really appreciated it. I don't think Spider-Man needs to be in space. I think that, you know, like you were how Vinny, you started all, like, he's supposed to be relatable, and so I don't think we need that all the time.
That post-credit scene says other though.
It's very, very true.
Very true.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too, I'm sure. But it was really cool to see Punisher, the dynamic. I haven't watched him on screen prior to this. I know obviously the character, so I know that they have the dynamic in the relationship, and it was really funny to see it. Their arguing was just obviously a really funny thing. We haven't really spoke a lot about the Hulk, but I think it was cool that the Hulk is still obviously, despite him being like this big beast, like he is still a ground level threat in some cases. He's a threat in every place, obviously, but I guess it was cool to still be able to include something like that in this too, and like we got all the elements of a ground story, but it still felt like again like a part of an Avengers movie, like Civil War, like you said. So it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Punisher fan. I've seen the first season of the show. Big fan of him in Daredevil, Born Again, and the new special. I forget the name of it. One Last Kill.
One Last Kill, yeah.
Yeah, so
Is that good, by the way?
it was all right.
Okay.
It's all right. It's literally just kind of like,
PTSD, the series.
yeah, and then like it's just 30 minutes of killing, which is cool.
Oh,
That was the best part.
okay.
But it's just like the most, and it's very dry. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But anywho, that's also though another kind of gripe. I can't. That's the thing. I'm judging this series for this series, but a big complaint that we have all been talking about with the MCU ever since Endgame has been that the creative teams of all these different projects, they don't feel connected, right? And funny enough, I was just talking to my friend today about WandaVision going into Multiverse of Madness and how WandaVision or Multiverse of Madness is a direct continuation of WandaVision, yet it feels like it was like the creative teams didn't even speak to each other.
Because Sam Raimi said he literally didn't watch WandaVision.
Yeah, like it's
a
like
massive problem.
Yeah, it is a massive problem because I like Frank. What are they do? Like this is not a critique to the movie, but a critique of the greater MCU. Have no consistent lining between his character.
You could have given him one F word. They didn't give him one.
Almost.
They almost did, but it's a PG-13
Yes.
movie. You had it there. You could have done it.
True.
But
true.
again, we didn't get the Frank that we see.
Yeah, I just think it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Because like we see him in Born Again, he's like, oh man, right? And then he's like chill by the end of season 1. And then he's like losing it. He becomes revamped. That's another thing too with Born Again. Born Again is very significant. Born Again is New York, and in One Last Kill, New York is in chaos. And then in this, they say, oh, New York has actually the lowest rate of crime ever due to Spider-Man.
What a good point that I didn't think of literally the entire movie, but you're right.
Yeah, so it's like, wait, Born Again and Spider-Man are happening simultaneously, but they're telling completely two different stories with the same characters. That's a little concerning. However, that's the critique of the bigger MCU as a whole. What the film does here as the film, I really like it. I like how Frank is handled here. I think that it is incredibly powerful. I think the scene where MJ sees his little thingaling, not his little thingling. What am I saying? Bad use of words. Yeah. I was watching another movie, I guess. So when MJ sees his family's portraits, thank you. That moment is great, and the ending scene when he cries is great. It's very similar to the train sequence in Spider-Man 2. Frank has a connection to the youth because of his family that he has once lost. That makes sense that he's crying there. And that whole hospital sequence made me choke up. That was amazing. Love how they do Frank. I really like how they do Bruce too. Again, emphasizing the themes. What I love about this movie is it's a Marvel movie that has the themes first, always. Every character here. Frank, Jean, Hulk, going back to the themes. Hulk with the split identity. Hulk's whole concept is when you let when you lose balance of one side of your identity, then the other side of the identity is going to go haywire.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Right? And that goes to Peter's whole arc here of how when he's losing sense of Peter Parker, then the arachnid DNA mutation happens, and he's now losing sense of Spider-Man as well. So I really appreciated Bruce. I appreciated Frank in this. I agree with you guys. I really liked it.
Meaghan, what do you think about the theory that in that hospital sequence or after Frank accidentally shoots Peter, trying to assassinate Jean, that Jean is the one keeping Peter alive? And that's the only reason, because there's a big theory going around that, like, that whole sequence of him being in the hospital, I mean, you could see from when he shot, I mean, there's a massive pool of blood behind Peter. It's not like it's like, he's like, I'm all right. He like immediately falls and there's a giant pool of blood behind him. So what are your thoughts on that theory and kind of how Peter's potential death scene and that relationship, as well as with Frank, played for you?
For starters, I was so not ready to watch Peter die again. Like, I was like really holding my breath for that. But I had this thought in the back of my mind, like, surprisingly, my first thought was, if this happens, if Peter dies, maybe I'm okay with it. Only because that leaves room for so much more to happen, like for a new Spider-Man, for a new beginning, like maybe. However, I didn't think they were going to kill him, and I was still relieved when they did. So I was like, okay, cool. However, I don't think that Jean Grey saving him was necessarily even a theory. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Frank just tells him outright in the hospital, like, yeah, she was doing her magic voodoo shit to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So I honestly took that really literally, and I was like, yeah, probably. You know, I mean, now based off of their, you know, their connection and their relationship now and their understanding of each other, like Jean is more powerful than even I really like understand. I think even the universe really understands. So like, if she did have the ability to have done that, then I buy it, because I mean, I also kind of think that Peter's, you know, he's a superhuman. Like, maybe I don't know, somehow he survived, but I also think that, I don't know, there's a whole ton of, all the magic is, you know, intertwining. So it was one of those kind of like MCU things where I was like, all right, I'll let that one slide. He's alive, so it's fine. I don't really care. But like, you know, and then as for the Punisher, I also loved him in this movie. What I really loved about this whole film was how funny it was, like how genuinely funny it was. Like there was a lot of really genuine laughs that like I experienced, the theater experience, and a lot of it was during that one sequence when the Punisher comes to help Peter fight the Hulk, and he's like shooting him with guns and everything, and they're like bickering, and then the Hulk is like hulking out, you know, which was one of like the best moments, at least in my theater, like when the Hulk was the Hulk again, which was the first time that we've seen him as the Hulk since, I don't know, was it Infinity War? I think. I don't remember when his last...
Beginning of Infinity
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
Like Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that was we haven't seen Hulk in years. So like that was probably the most excited I even got when I was watching it. I was like, that is so cool. Like it was giving me that a little bit of like, you know, Infinity War Endgame like saga energy like during that time of my life. I was like, oh my God. So I think, again, like the groundedness of all the characters and how we've been saying this whole time, how like they just play so well off of each other and just like work so well in this film. Like I think that's just a testimony to all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like my overall thoughts about that. But yeah,
I
don't
think
know.
Frank fills the role that Ned played in the previous 3 movies with humor in a very interesting way. Not in a way that, because it's not the same version of humor that we've seen in the previous 3 movies, where again they're teenagers and it's kind of it's played for laughs directly. It's more about the relationship that Frank and Peter have together, and like you said, it's like it's the earnestness that he has for Peter, for who he is, but it's also understanding like you do things so differently than I would do things that I have to play it for laughs, because like it's insane, like the way that you're trying to protect everybody instead of trying to get shit done, because Peter has that badge of honor to who he is. And I thought, I mean, there's so many things that I really love about this movie, but their relationship in general, I felt like was very earned. And I thought that Punisher made a lot of sense in the movie, even though it's not, again, the version of Frank that we've seen in other MCU media. I mean, again, like you said, coming off of where he is in Born Again comparatively to how he is in this, I'm just like, this dude might have went through a brain wipe like right before this movie started.
Yeah.
But I really loved their relationship. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that we want to cover when it comes to this film?
Well, there's like a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, we talked about how good Destin Daniel Cretton is, like the directing here.
We haven't talked about the swinging.
Yeah.
Yes.
The suit.
The suit, the swinging, the action,
Let's jump
Yeah.
into Spider-Man.
the arachnid hormones. We need to talk about. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
And that's it.
I guess I'll start. I guess.
ahead.
Okay. So for one, the suit is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's hands down, and it's like it is everything we really wanted from the Spider-Man suit. It feels real. I'm so genuine that
It is real.
exactly.
They talked about
like,
it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's real. Like it's not. I cannot stand in all the other Tom Holland films. I rewatched Homecoming recently. He's jumping over a fence and it's CGI. And like it's too perfect to the point where it's like we're seeing like the ripples in his muscle, and I'm like, that's not a suit. That's not a suit, because it isn't. It's CGI.
Yeah.
They're just CGIing him over. And that bugs me so much. And I'm so glad that this feels genuine. It's original. Also, they've had this bad case with the Tom Holland suits of doing like weird, wacky shit. The hybrid suit in No Way Home is disgusting looking. It's so disgusting. They went back to the roots. The blue looks beautiful. The red looks beautiful. The webbing looks beautiful. It's just a comic accurate suit. You even have the webs,
Organic
shooters.
web.
Well, no, I was gonna say the shooters on the outside of the suit.
Yes.
Like straight out of like a Ditko like illustration. Like it's awesome. And he's like like just sitting around too. Like there's so many scenes and shots where it's like that's a real person, that's a real suit, and he's like sitting around the wrinkles. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And same with the action and the swinging and like finally, like it's like we could have done this all along, and it looks beautiful, and the action is so well directed. It's like from the Insomniac games. He's doing crazy shit. Yeah, it's like that's awesome. It's so awesome.
Megan, go ahead.
There were several moments during this movie where I was sitting there and like just thinking like, oh yeah, like this is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like just crawling on the ceiling, or like like the wrinkles in the suit, or just like when he's just like standing there and like low-key aura farming, but like also just like looking so badass. I'm like, that's what I like when I said in the beginning, like how this Spider-Man film feels so different compared to the other three. It's like that's exactly it. Like he is Spider-Man right now. Like we never really saw, like we've never had a swinging sequence like we've had with Tom's Spider-Man like in any of the other movies. Like it was just so peak, like in that regard. Like it was great. I was like ecstatic. And my second favorite scene, because I think my first favorite scene is like the whole like Hulk Punisher fight, whatever. My other favorite scene though is when Peter's hormones, like arachnid hormones, take over, and he like rips Scorpion's like whatever those things are called, like he just rips his suit apart, right, and like almost kills him, and then like nearly kills a cop. Like when that car goes like flying, I was like, yeah.
Jump too, when he that same scene, he just like randomly jumped up and then swam back in.
Yes.
Like, whoa, this guy's legit.
Yes, like he's like an animal. Yeah, I've seen like so many comments, like people being like, "Yo, do not give bro the symbiote." Like
Don't know how this bro's gonna handle that.
Yeah. Right. Which I'm a little disappointed they didn't even take that route, because that would be actually so badass. But it was just
It's
so
coming.
You think? I honestly hope.
Yeah.
I think it was so like that was just so cool to me. Like that there was like that moment where I like forgot I'm watching a Disney movie. Like it didn't really feel like that for a second.
Yeah.
I almost wish they really delved into that more, to be quite honest.
The
Like,
action sequences, I think, are just so good in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, when he fights the hand and he makes the decision, I mean, that whole twisty web thing that he does, which, I mean, yes, we saw it in the trailer, but like seeing it in the full scale on the big screen, to me, it's just like, it's such a unique and innovative way to showcase like how Tom's version of the character is innovating and growing and maturing, and how he's able to kind of, like you said, meld those things together. I just think that this is Tom's, like I said, I think him being a producer on this project showcased its way in a lot of different ways in this movie, because even the way he's talked about it, like on the press tour, he feels so much more connected to the character than I feel like he has in years past. And part of that is because, again, he's maturing, he's growing up. He said it, I really wanted my voice to be a part of this. And he talked about this very early on, even before they went on the press tour, that his experience on doing the Odyssey and seeing how Nolan worked, he's like, I was calling Marvel and Sony and being like, we need to be doing things the way that these people are doing things. And you can see the passion in the filmmaking in this movie to a different level, I feel like, than the previous three that Holland did. Yeah.
I also want to, like, to both of your guys' points, to your point, Mikey, and tying it all the way back to you said at the beginning of the review how this is like the most beautiful New York has looked in a New York. I got to shout out Brett Pollock, the DP. It's beautiful. I mean, this is easily one of the, cinematography wise, one of the more gorgeous looking Marvel films. It's not gray. It's like, it's filled with contrast. It's filled with light. I love how that scene with Scorpion, the one you guys were talking about, is lit. It's so gorgeous. The flames, how soft the flames are, but how rigid the light is being used at points as well, is like, it's beyond me. It's shot well. Yeah, I just wanted to shout out him.
Yeah,
Shout out Brett Pollock.
What about that one shot? I mean, I know you were probably like eyeing it down.
Yeah.
The last shot of the whole film where Peter's just like not in suit and he's like fully just like Peter Parker, but he's sitting and you see a sunset of like the city in the background. It was something about that shot too where I was just
Oh yeah.
like, oh snap, like and the credits. That was something that was so underrated to me. But I seen this like a TikTok trend now. It's like we were doing it. Like that's where I feel like they really captured New York. Bro. I was like, oh,
yes.
So I agree. Thank you for shouting him out. That
Oh
was
yeah.
really good. What was his name?
Brett Pollock.
Greg
Pollock.
Yeah.
The ending of the movie. So this has been another topic that a lot of people have wanted to talk about. We already talked about kind of maybe MJ's relationship with that. Do we all stand on a similar thing with Ned? Do we think it has to do with Jean? Some people have also, I mean, again, this might be so crazy and a silly theory. I'm sure you're laughing because you probably know what I'm talking about. People were like, he wouldn't have been able to use a sling ring like that in the last movie if he wasn't somewhat of a wizard. And Ned also becomes Hobgoblin in the comics. So it could be interesting if that's, but where do we sit with theories in terms of the ending of the movie and knowing who Peter is at the end of this?
It's hard. Well, I have a bunch of little theories.
Okay.
Well, funny enough, I don't believe this theory, but I want to throw it on the table to discuss it because I'm curious what you guys think. There's a theory that he already has the symbiote, and that
Ned has it.
No,
That Peter has.
Peter, like the mutating arachnid DNA, he already has the symbiote from when Eddie Brock
Was in that
Tom
universe.
Hardy,
Yeah.
right? Tom Hardy left behind the symbiote at the end of No Way Home, and he already has it. But and that's why the mutation is happening. But in Secret Wars, it's gonna actually like fully come out in Secret Wars.
I would love that. I would love that.
I mean, we have to get the suit, realistically. The Russos have been asked about it already like 4 times, and they're like, we're not going to confirm or deny anything is in Doomsday or Secret Wars, obviously. I haven't been paying attention to that as much because I felt like going into it, I felt like by the end of this movie, he was just going to get the symbiote. Like, I figured that's where we'd end up.
Yeah.
But I could believe that. I don't see why that couldn't be something that is possible.
I think that's what the ending was supposed to be. Personally, I do think because now hearing that they changed a lot, and I remember hearing a rumor that Venom the symbiote was supposed to appear in this film. I think that was one of the earlier things. And now going back to that shot, Darian, that you said, as far as when Peter got shot and there was a massive pool of blood, I do think he died. I think in the original cut, I think they killed Peter.
I think that too.
And then they did the rest in peace Spider-Man thing.
Yeah. He like came out. Yes.
Yeah.
And
And that's what I think the test audiences were like, we don't want Spider-Man to die.
Yeah.
And Peter, and then Tom Holland was like, yeah, all right, well, if the fans hate it, I guess we got to change it.
especially coming off the whole like Aunt May scene. Like it was just like I feel like she was already like we lost her in the last film, and then she played like a nice like guidance role in this in their head, and then to immediately kill Peter off after that probably like were like no, people were really upset. So I think
Yeah, I could definitely see that point. I think that the reason why, like, when I thought maybe that he was gonna die and like part of me was excited was literally the whole symbiote theory. Because I had seen like I'm not like a huge like comic book person, but I did see like this like somebody had posted this theory of like he died and then the symbiote I guess it brings him back to life somehow.
Yeah.
Like I thought that would have been so dope. Like that would be so cool. So yeah, that's like I'm all for that. If that's the direction they go somehow or another, like that would be that'd be really cool.
I could see though without any sort of like it makes me question if that was the case, and say in a world that did happen, I wonder how much the symbiote was involved in that film, because then people can also argue that there was no build up and all of a sudden he has the symbiote. Like, and people know it, like obviously like what the symbiote is and that it probably happened, but like they could have also done something where they killed him and then all of a sudden you just then saw like the symbiote and it's just like there was no
Just
like,
crawls out of his body.
yeah, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? So I don't know, but it's a cool theory. Like thinking that he might have it right now, and it's interesting. It's very
I think that also with the post-credit scene, which we talked about earlier, we would cover. I actually like the theory that that's either Toby or Andrew on Battleworld
Oh.
because it's a Spider-Man tracker. It's not a Peter Parker tracker.
Or Miles.
It also could be Miles. I personally, all right. So Miles is also in the Secret Wars comic, isn't he?
Yeah, he's prevalent.
Okay.
Like, he's one of the main people in
So-
Star Wars.
I love Miles.
Yeah.
I love Miles in the animation, obviously. I would hate if they did that. I think that Miles needs a proper build to get to him. And that's an example of, again, like, if they're going to have to, like, not adapt the comic directly, I would rather us get Miles at the end of Tom's trilogy. I think that that's where we need to see. And it needs to be a proper handoff. And I think Miles needs to get a movie where he's introduced and not in a way where it's just like trying to think of like the way that like Namor is in Wakanda Forever is the way that I feel like Miles needs to be in the first time he's adapted to live action.
Yeah.
Because he needs to be given proper screen time. He needs to be given the elements of whether they decide to kind of make it similar to Spider-Verse where like they introduce his parents in the role that they play, because I think they are a big part of him in the films. But it's possible that it also can be Miles. I just think I like the theory that it could be one of Toby or Andrew. And then we give them, I mean, I think in the end of the Secret Wars, we're going to knock off a bunch of people anyway. And at the end of Doomsday.
Doomsday for sure.
Doomsday 100%. But I'm saying like, I think they're saving the heavy hitting other Marvel people for Secret Wars because a lot of our MCU heroes are going to die, I think.
Did either of you?
No, I don't. I agree. I don't know.
I'm a bit underwhelmed by the post-credit scene. Is that like crazy to say? Because I'm also like I just don't know. Like I just have no idea who that would be, and also if not Tom Holland, then that's kind of disappointing. Then what's gonna happen with him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's going to be in Secret Wars.
Okay.
100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a series of theories of what that could be related to, honestly, because I've heard of. I don't think Andrew would be in that conversation, unfortunately. I love him, but I don't think that he would be in that. I have heard that Toby, there's a chance that maybe this whole film could start. We're watching an incursion between the X-Men world and Tobey Maguire's world, and he ends up somehow ending up on the Fantastic Four ship coming to our world. And that's why in the trailer where you see, we talked about this on one of the
There's gaps.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I thought about that. I don't know if I like that personally. I think that what it should either be. I don't even think it should be Miles, to be honest. I mean, I love Miles. I am Miles Morales.
By the way.
But I agree. I don't think he should be brought in that way. I've always had this theory that maybe at the end of the Spider-Verse movies, they might do something where they pull him from the animated movies into the live-action world, and then somehow that could be something. I also pray that does not happen. But like that was also a theory. I personally do think that it's just Battle World. It's just confirming that Doomsday, he destroys every world and he puts them all in Battle World, and we're watching. The only thing I don't know about that for sure though is because, and if you guys know what Battle World is, I might have just thrown out a word. I don't know, but like that's
We've discussed it, but
Exactly.
Megan might not know. Yeah.
Do you know Battle World?
No, I do not.
Essentially, I'm not read up. Like Vinny's probably the one who really be saying a lot of this because you read Secret Wars, right?
No, I haven't read it, but I know of it. I know we talked about it when we talked about our Doomsday discussion.
Yeah.
Like I know of the like what happens. And yeah.
So yeah. Essentially Doom in the Secret Wars comics, he all a bunch of incursions, he destroys all these worlds, he brings a bunch of the superheroes and the villains, and he creates Battle World, another planet, and he puts them all in there, and they all fight essentially. They fight, and that goes on for a while. So it's been heavily rumored that after Doomsday, all of the movies that take place until Secret Wars all take place on Battle World, and we're gonna watch all these superhero films with these characters all together. I do think that that's what the after credit scene is. I do think it's just hinting that we won't see him in Doomsday. Maybe we'll see like a little like they could get away with like maybe like a masked scene where it's not Tom himself, but it's still Spider-Man. But I do think that that's hinting that in Secret Wars there will all be on in space on Battle World. If it isn't that, the only reason I could see it maybe being Toby is because technically when you watch the after credit scene, there's still a Spider-Man emblem that stays in Queens. So when it moves, like there's still an emblem that stays, but another one pops up. So that makes me think, oh, maybe this is a second Spider-Man, and so I could see that then being Toby in that instance. But then it glitches, like Megan. I think you had mentioned that it glitched, and that makes me think Miles. So it's like they could go a lot of ways, and who knows? Maybe it could be all.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just who knows? But it's Sony.
Well, yeah, I think that if gun to my head theory, I would say that I don't think we're getting a single actual Spider-Man in movie in Doomsday. I think we're getting 0 Spider-Man. I think a post-credit scene will be one Spider-Man. Don't know who it's going to be. I don't believe... I've heard the Toby thing for Doomsday as well. I read a crazy theory where people were like, yeah, like Doom comes in and like kills Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Toby's Spider-Man. I'd be like, I don't even know if I would want that. It seems cheap. I don't like that.
It has to happen.
I think that I would love to see Secret Wars having just the 2 Spider-Men together, Tom and Toby, as a part of whatever team is trying to stop this, with Toby fully... Because Toby didn't die in No Way Home.
No.
He was stabbed and he was injured, but he didn't die.
No.
I would like to see... Sorry, Toby. Toby killed off by the end of Secret Wars, and partially also thinking of it from a logistical standpoint, Toby's done with the character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what else can Toby do
Right.
with the character? The fact that he even came back for No Way Home is like one of the most miraculous things ever, I feel like. I fully believe that Andrew, if given the opportunity, would play the character again, and I would like to see Andrew even maybe playing like a mentor type of character to Tom if they decide to even do that. Even though Tom, like I said, after Secret Wars, it's like, what else is he going to do other than 2 more movies? Realistically, I can't imagine Holland doing another 10 movies post Secret Wars. I just don't see it happening. So I think it's a different Spider-Man, personally, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
I really have
No other thoughts?
about theories now. I do have one major gripe with this, not even with the film. The marketing. The trailers. The trailers were like, why did the trailers... And I think this is a big reason, because I've been talking with a lot of people, and a lot of people, my friends that I was talking to, nearly all of them were like, oh, I was expecting more.
Yes.
Yeah.
My friend, and we were talking about it too. We were expecting Daredevil, possibly.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. The trailers gave us everything. They gave us every action set piece.
Yep.
They gave us Hulk. They gave us a lot of Hulk. They shouldn't have given us that much Hulk in the trailers. They gave us the hands. They gave us the Scorpion. They gave us everything. Every major set piece in this film. The only thing they didn't give us was Jean Grey. And that was
Everybody knew.
Yeah, it was the worst kept secret in the world. I just wish that, and again, I don't know, I can't really critique the film for that. So that's another thing where like the Frank Castle stuff and like the MCU continuity stuff, I can't critique. It's not going to lower my rating of the film, but it is a little disappointing that the marketing was like shitty like that.
Yeah.
100%.
Get your shit together, Marvel, is what Vinny's trying to say.
Yeah.
You.
Sony's marketing team sucks. Sorry.
Whoa.
Sorry, guys. I feel bad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. But guys, like,
They're never
everyone
hiring you.
for the yeah. Wait, actually, we might gotta cut that because I have a good relationship with Sony Picture Classics. I just realized that technically they're not the same, but they're under the same label. But anywho, yeah. Anyway, I'll just end my thought there.
I also, that made me remember too that when I mean, for starters, yeah, I mean, it was one of those trailers where, you know, they kind of gave everything away in a sense, but like when the second trailer dropped, I remember thinking like, okay, like we're gonna see more, but it was like essentially the same trailer again. Like I even like the trailer, I was like, or the second one at least, I was like, oh, I was expecting more, I guess. So that I didn't think of that, but yeah, I mean the fact that you brought that up, I just forgot to mention that like I didn't really feel much of a difference in the trailers or anything.
Yeah,
either.
I tried to stay away from a lot of the marketing for this movie in general because once I saw the first trailer, I was kind of like, I'm sold. I do agree. It felt like there was going to be more in the movie, but I think that actually worked in favor for my experience because I loved how grounded it was in comparison to like thinking it was going to be. Just because I feel like the way that the MCU has been trending, I was worried about it being not having a singular focus. That was like my big thing. It was like, how are you going to do, like, well, what do you mean? There's going to be Hulk in it, and there's going to be the Punisher, and there's going to be the Hand, and there's going to be Jean Grey, and there's going to be the relationship with MJ and Ned. Is that just going to completely disappear? Because that's the heart of the movies. Like, so I felt like it worked like in the opposite effect, but I only watched one trailer, and then I was like, I'm good. I'm not going to watch it. And I'm not typically like that at all. I usually watch like a lot of marketing things at a time. Yeah. And anytime, like if I was watching TV and there happened to be like an ad spot, I would just get up and walk away. Mm-hmm. So, but I can understand that because I've seen similar gripes from a lot of people. So I totally get that in terms of the marketing.
You know, I definitely feel that was one of my other gripes. And it wasn't necessarily that. It was more of the fact that just certain like sequences, action sequences, I just feel like were super short. But like 100% goes into that. I feel like I was really upset. I loved the Hulk fight. Don't get me wrong. I loved what we got. I thought it looked great, but it was so short. It was like really short. And the hand fight I also thought was really short. And maybe I'm being biased because I think back to a lot of the older Spider-Man films, and not Tom specifically, but like Andrew and Tobey's, and they were like extended like action sequences. Like I think back to like and Andrew's movies weren't like the best, we all know, but like his fight versus Electro at like the end is like really like it's cinematically really cool, and like it goes on for a while. And so like I feel like with this film they were just like cut really short. Like you said, we saw them a lot, we saw everything. I with that, another gripe that I had with Hulk's character, and this is the last thing I'll really say just because I feel like they're gonna try and theorize theories with Hulk and Hulk knowing Peter and all that stuff, and like the comic thing that I'm sure all of us have seen is like Hulk remembering Peter when nobody else does. I don't think any of that made sense in the film. I thought Hulk's involvement in this film was really cool, and I think it fit. And hearing like the whole like again like knowing the both sides to the character, like was said before, but it just kind of felt like it was so fast. It was so quick.
Yeah.
And I feel that same way with the Hand. I feel that same way with everything. And again, maybe it is because we saw it all. I hadn't really thought about the marketing part of this, but as I was watching all these clips on my phone, I'm like, oh wow, like we watched a lot of the movie in like the past couple of weeks. So I can agree with that. I think that is something marketing needs to be worked on a little bit more. And maybe like just not showing us things. Like maybe like if we didn't even know the Hulk was in this movie, I would have been content.
Give us one trailer. Right? Stop giving us a teaser and then 2 final trailers and then ad spots and then it's the industry and it's frustrating, but it is what it is. It is. I also think part of the reason that thought process falls into place, which I completely understand, is that the previous 3 Holland movies have massive final fights. Massive final fights. Mysterio fight is huge. Obviously, No Way Home is one of the biggest fight sequences ever. Even with Vulture, it feels like you said, like the Amazing Spider-Man fight scenes, where it's kind of a bigger, bombastic kind of ending to Peter's arc. So I can see all of that. But we've been talking about this movie for quite a long time. So I feel like at this point, it's a good time to kind of wrap up and give our final thoughts and give our scores. I'll start. There's a lot to love about this movie. It's in comparison to a lot of the other MCU films that have come out in recent memory, this has brought my excitement back. It's made me feel really excited for, again, the future of Tom playing this character in a more mature sense. Destin is 3 for 3 in my eyes in the MCU.
Yes.
I think I've seen majority of his films in general, and I've really liked pretty much everything he's ever done. And I really love him as a filmmaker. I think that this movie, like I said, feels very singular to Tom finding who he is as this character, and even Zendaya and Jacob Batalon kind of having a different new arc with Ned and MJ going forward. Love the introduction of Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. My only gripe are some conveniences, and William Metzger is just why Tremel Tillman, I love you more than most people.
Oh, yeah, we didn't really talk
We
about
don't
damage
need
control.
to.
Yeah,
Damage
just-
control, they're important
Yeah.
going forward, but how important are they?
Yeah.
And Metzger's just playing the guy in the suit, and I just think that we need a little bit more with these kinds of characters, and we need to expand upon things like that. So, having said all of that, it is one of my favorite movies of the year thus far. I'm going to give Spider-Man Brand New Day a 9 out of 10. So that is my final score for Spider-Man.
Yeah, we're basically on the same page. I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10. I don't think it's going to be a 10 in my book, ever. I want to see it again. As of now, it is a solid 9.
It is my favorite live-action Spider-Man, though.
Really?
It is.
Ooh.
More than Spider-Man 1 and 2?
Yes. It is.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't love Spider-Man 2 to the same level as everybody else does. I really like it,
Yeah.
but I like the Spider-Verse movies better than all the live action.
Yeah, that's valid.
So
That's valid.
that's where I sit. But again, I want to see it again. Maybe my opinion changes. But yeah, I really like Spider-Man 2. I love Doc Ock, but we're not going to go into a whole thing of Raimi's movies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
10.
10.
It's listen.
No notes.
Listen, it's Tom Holland, and I just love that man so much, and I love his Spider-Man, and like that. These past 4 movies have like just like been such a huge part of like me growing up. So like maybe I'm a little I'm a little biased. But for that reason, you know, since I agree with you guys, maybe ordinarily I would give it a 9, but just because like his Spider-Man just means so much to me, like I just got it. I can't imagine not giving it a 10. I'd walk out of here being like, why'd I say that?
That's fair.
You know? So
Totally
yeah.
fair. Mikey?
So I do want to first and foremost thank you, all 3 of you, because my score was very low. Not very low, but it was a lot lower than you guys. It's not a lot. It was lower. But in our conversation, you guys proved a lot of my things wrong that were in my head. So thank you. The one thing that I do want to say before I get my score that you brought up, Tremel Tillman, I'm very sick of damage control being the villain of these Tom Holland movies.
Yeah.
Why are, like, literally Vulture and all of them are damage control. Like, they're always damage
Young
control.
heroes, particularly.
Yeah.
Ms. Marvel, they're the villain throughout the whole
All
series.
that.
Yeah.
So it's like, and like, why do they have like a new damage control leader like every 5 like weeks? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, and they're all bad. Like everyone's bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It
In
was-
Wonder Man 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's poor writing. It's poor writing, is what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
100%, yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. I was at an 8. I jumped to a 9.
Okay. So, pretty high scores from the panel. What did you guys think? If you guys tuned in for this whole review, thank you for watching. I'm sure we're over an hour at this point. But thank you guys for checking out this long-winded spoiler, non-spoiler talk of Spider-Man Brand New Day. What are your guys' thoughts on the movie? Leave your comments down below. We'd love to have a conversation with you guys. Give this video a like if you guys can. Subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We have been covering more Marvel because there's a lot more Marvel in the news. Not only that,
Yeah.
but in the comic book genre, myself, Mikey, Vinny, we're going to be covering Lanterns, which is the other side of the coin with DC starting in a couple weeks on HBO. So you guys can check that stuff out as well. And we're on social media. If you don't follow us on any of the platforms, all that stuff is below me in the video. It's also in our YouTube description. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Just signing off. I've been Darian Scalamoni,
I'm Vinny Albano.
I'm Megan Krantz.
I'm Mikey Benson.
and we'll see you guys next time.
This is the culture.